single person, working alone in Sweden, accidentally built a game so hard that it spawned an entire competitive sport out of people trying to prove it was possible. And nobody, not even him, saw that coming. Somewhere on the internet right now, someone is on their 47,000th attempt at a level that takes 2 minutes to complete. They have failed at the 98% mark twice, and they are gonna try again. And the reason any of this exists starts with a civil engineering student who just didn't want to go to class. His name is Robert Topala. You probably know him by the name of his company, which is RobTop. In 2013, he made a game. A little mobile game, a cube that jumps. He didn't expect anyone to care, which ended up being wrong. But what he really didn't expect was what the people who cared would eventually do to it. To understand how we got here, you have to go back to around 2010. Robert is a student. He's supposed to be studying civil engineering. Instead, he's making a little bouncy ball game on Newgrounds in his spare time. If you don't know, Newgrounds was a browser game website. You could upload games there for free. He calls it honestly, bounce ball thingy. And it makes him a tiny bit of money. But most importantly, he really enjoys it. So he keeps making small games, puzzle stuff, matching stuff, and he keeps getting better. And somewhere in 2012, he gets this idea for a platformer, something rhythm-based, something that moves to music. He said later, there was no real plan. It started as just a template with a cube that could crash and jump. That's the whole vision. At this point, he's working on a MacBook Pro. He's a one-man studio. He has basically no marketing budget, and he builds the whole thing in about 4 months. At first, he was going to call it Geometry Jump, but Apple told him he couldn't. So he changed it to Geometry Dash, which, if you ask me, is a better name anyway. He uploaded it to the App Store on the 13th of August, 2013. It cost $1.99. Then almost nothing happened. A few good reviews trickled in, some nice words from small sites, and then, almost instantly, it fell off the charts and disappeared. RobTop said it himself. Since I had no marketing budget, it quickly dropped in rankings after release. For most games, that would have been the end of the story, but RobTop kept updating it. He talked to players, he asked what they wanted, and then actually built it. And slowly, people started coming back. The growth was very consistent, but like I said, very slow. And then he added the level editor. Version 1.3. That's the update that changed what Geometry Dash actually was. The level editor let players build their own levels from scratch, place obstacles, set timing, sync everything to music, and then upload it for anyone in the world to play. On paper, that sounds like a nice little bonus feature. In practice, it was like handing a box of matches to someone who'd been standing next to a gas leak for 6 months. Within weeks, players were building things RobTop never imagined. Levels that were harder than the ones he made. Levels designed not to be fun, but to be almost impossible to beat. The community was actively competing to see how hard they could push it. And by 2014, Geometry Dash was doing something gaming had never really seen before. Players were racing each other to the top of a difficulty that didn't have a ceiling yet. Nobody had drawn a line and said, this is as hard as it gets. So they kept building, kept trying, kept failing. However, there was a question the whole community was asking, and they were about to get a pretty terrifying answer. To understand what happens next, you need to know how the difficulty system works. In Geometry Dash, levels get rated on a scale: easy, normal, hard, harder, insane, and then at the very top, demon. When the game launched, Demon was supposed to mean genuinely challenging, the kind of level which was almost impossible to finish. However, the community ate through that within a year and had to invent new words. They started calling levels extreme demons, levels so far beyond the official top rating that the original word had stopped meaning anything useful, and they built their own list to track them, a ranking of the hardest levels ever made, ordered by how likely it was that any human being could actually complete them. That list would eventually become one of the most influential things in the entire community. But before it could mean anything, something happened. In 2015, a level called Bloodbath dropped, and Geometry Dash was never the same. Bloodbath was a collaboration. A group of the best creators in the community each contributed a section, and a player named Riot stitched them together and verified the whole thing. The word verified means the person uploading a level has to beat it themselves first to prove it's possible. Riot managed to beat Bloodbath, and it took him 25,000 attempts. He uploaded it, but when the community first looked at it, they had a bit of a panic attack. There was a section made by a creator called Michigan that people still talk about today. The tightest corridors imaginable, no room to breathe, timing that required something close to inhuman consistency. The level remained unbeaten by anyone else for 7 months after it launched, meaning 7 months with Riot being the only person to finish it. But someone eventually beat it. That person was a player called Quasar, and when he did it, the community celebrated like someone had just won a championship, because he kinda did. Bloodbath sat at number 1 on the hardest levels list for over a year. People trained on it, measured themselves by it. Beating Bloodbath meant you basically beat the game. And then someone decided to cheat, and it blew the whole thing up. His name was Cyclic, a South Korean player who, to the community, looked like the best in the world. He verified his own level, Sonic Wave, making it the new hardest thing in existence. However, the community watched the verification video, and some of them immediately felt something was wrong. The times were too clean, the movements too precise. Nobody could prove anything though, he could just be that good. Then in March of 2016, Cyclic confessed. He posted a message. He'd used a Verify hack, a program that beats the level for you, to fake the verification of Sonic Wave. And not just Sonic Wave, he said he'd hacked every record he'd ever claimed. All of it. He quit the game that same day and stopped posting. This was one of the biggest controversies in the history of Geometry Dash, because this wasn't just about one player lying. If the best player in the game had been faking it, how many others had too? What was the list worth if anyone could fake their way to the top? The entire competitive scene was built on trust, and the trust was now gone. So the community did something about it. The Demon List, as it's known today, became a proper institution. A dedicated team of moderators and reviewers built out a real set of rules. You had to provide footage. You had to show your inputs, your clicks, and taps on screen. There were standards for what counted as a legitimate completion and what didn't. No more taking someone's word for it. You showed your work or you weren't on the list. And that structure created something nobody fully predicted, because now there was a real leaderboard, real rankings, points you could earn by completing hard levels. And once there were points, there were people trying to get to the top of them. People started playing 10, 12 hours a day, grinding levels with hundreds of thousands of attempts, training specific sections over and over. A wave section that lasts 2 seconds in a level might take someone months of practice to get consistent on. And the levels kept getting harder because the players kept getting better, and the players kept getting better because the levels demanded it. Robtop was watching all of this from Sweden, still mostly one guy, still doing updates. And then in January of 2017, he released update 2.1 and said he is working on the next one. Problem is, he said that for almost 7 years. To his credit, Robtop wasn't completely idle during this time. While the main game sat frozen, he released a series of smaller standalone spin-offs. Geometry Dash Meltdown came out in December of 2015. 3 levels, music by a composer called F777, free to download. It was essentially a preview of mechanics, headed for the next big update, new icons, new visual effects, packaged as its own little game. Then in December 2016, he released Geometry Dash World. 10 levels across 2 themed worlds, connected to the online ecosystem, with daily challenges and featured community picks. The closest any spin-off came to feeling like a real extension of the main game. And then, in December 2017, almost like clockwork, came Geometry Dash Sub-Zero. 3 more levels, 3 more artists. A cold visual theme, and, as players would eventually realize, a quiet preview of mechanics that wouldn't officially land until 2.2 years later. None of them scratched the itch the community had. They were good, people played them, but they weren't the update. They were a signal that Robtop was still building, still thinking about the game, just slowly, very slowly. Put yourself in the shoes of a Geometry Dash player in 2018. The game came out in 2013. The level editor changed everything in 2014. The competitive scene was serious by 2015. You've been playing for years. You're good. You've beaten things you never thought you could. You're watching new records fall every few weeks, and the update is coming. Robtop posted a video in November of 2017 showing off a new feature called the Random Trigger. It looks incredible. The community loves it. And then, nothing. Weeks pass. Months. The update doesn't come, Robtop goes silent. Someone pointed out that by 2022, that the game had spent more than 2/3 of its entire existence stuck in the same version, waiting for an update that kept not arriving. The Google Play Store actually pulled Geometry Dash at one point because the version on there was so old, it violated their policies for supported software. The game was literally being removed from a major app store while everyone waited. Robtop kept missing his own deadlines. He announced October 2023, then November, then December. Every delay became a meme. People were joking that 2.2 was basically folklore at this point, but the community didn't wait around. They kept going. While Robtop was somewhere in Sweden building the biggest update in the game's history, the players just kept playing, kept making levels, kept verifying records, kept pushing the skill ceiling higher with no new official content to push it along. A player called Technical spent something like 4 years working toward a level called Zodiac. Not as a job, not for money, just for fun. The community watched progress videos, left comments, showed up to streams. Players were building levels so complex that the design alone took a year, and then finding someone willing to spend another year or 2 trying to beat it. The Demon List kept growing. New names became legends. Whole new genres of levels appeared, levels built like art installations, levels that existed just to find out if a human being could physically react fast enough to survive them. All of this with no update. All of this on the same version of the game that had been sitting there for years. And then, on the 19th of December, 2023, it finally came out. 88,346 people were playing Geometry Dash at the same time on Steam alone, the highest concurrent player count the game had ever seen. For a game that launched on a mobile phone for $2 in 2013, with no marketing budget and initially disappeared without a trace. Update 2.2 added a completely new game mode, a platformer mode where you move freely instead of the auto-scrolling format the entire game had been built on. Camera controls, new triggers, new physics, over 600 new unlockables. Players said it felt less like an update and more like getting handed a different game. People who had stopped playing years ago came back. People who thought they were done came back. The game hit a number it had never hit before, and all of it was built on top of a community that had spent 7 years refusing to let it go quiet. Geometry Dash doesn't have a story, no plot, no characters, no dialogue. A cube, music, spikes. That's the game. And yet people have poured years of their lives into it and will talk about specific levels the way someone might talk about an album they know so well they can hear it start to finish in their head. Part of it is the music. The way a jump lands exactly on a drop, the way an obstacle appears, right where a guitar note hits. It creates such a rhythm that, simply put, people love. But the bigger part, the thing that explains why people kept playing through 7 years of no updates, why they built a competitive sport inside a $2 mobile game, why they tracked attempts and records like box scores, is that in Geometry Dash you can always feel yourself getting better. Every session, your muscle memory builds, your eyes read the level faster. What killed you 1,000 times becomes something you barely think about. And then there's a harder one. There's always a harder one. Robert Topala built a cube that crashes and jumps on his laptop in Sweden, planning absolutely nothing beyond that. The people who found it took it somewhere he never thought of, and that's the story of Geometry Dash.